Here is the answer for day 4. Question A, write in exponential form. And this is in radical form right now. The square root symbol is called a radical symbol. So the square root of 24 has an index of 2, even though for square roots, you don't take the time to show the index. You can write that in exponential form by using the number inside the radical, the 24, and raising it to an exponent. When you have a square root, the exponent is 1/2. If this was a cube root, the exponent would have been 1/3. If there was a little 4 here in the index spot, the exponent would have been 1/4. Okay, question B is the reverse process. Write in radical form. So the fractional exponent is 1/2. That corresponds to a radical with an index of 2. It's just for a square root, you don't take the time to write a little 2 in this spot. And then inside, put the 40. So the square root of 40 is equivalent to 40 raised to the 1/2 power. Now we're going to simplify the square root of 24. If the square root of 24 was equal to a whole number, then you would just say equals and you'd write that number down. But because this makes a decimal, we're going to try to simplify it. What you do is you rewrite 24 as a pair of factors multiplied together. Now don't just choose any two numbers that times up to 24. You want to pick the largest perfect square that's a factor of 24. The largest perfect square that divides into 24 is 4. And 4 times 6 is 24. So we're rewriting the square root of 24 as the square root of 4 times 6. The next step, you can separate this into two separate radicals. The square root of 4 times the square root of 6. And then one more step. The square root of 4 does make a whole number. It equals 2. The square root of 6 does not make a whole number, so you leave that as the radical square root of 6. So our answer is 2 square root of 6, or you might say 2 times the square root of 6. Now when you actually work this out, you can skip this step here, or maybe you skip this step, right? These are so similar to each other, you don't really need to take the time to write them both down on paper. The main thing is that you get to the final answer correctly. Now question D, we're going to simplify 2 square root of 50 plus 12 square root of 8. This is an adding problem, and you'll remember a rule in algebra that you can add like terms. For example, just over here on the side, a related problem. 2x plus 12x. You could add those, right? 2x plus 12x makes 14x. We want to do a similar thing with these, but we have to have like radical terms. And the square root of 50 and the square root of 8 are not like terms. So let's rewrite these. We're going to simplify these like we did in question C. So take the square root of 50 and rewrite it as a pair of factors multiplied together. Now, not just anything like 5 times 10 or something. You want to choose the largest perfect square that divides into 50. That's 25. So 25 times 2 is how I'm rewriting the 50. Now we can also rewrite the square root of 8. So 4 times 2 makes 8. Okay, next step. The square root of 25 is 5. And in front of that there's a 2. So 2 times 5 makes 10. And then this 2 stays in the radical. So we have 10 square root of 2. Plus, now let's rewrite this right here. The square root of 4 makes 2. In front of that is 12. So 12 times 2 is 24. And then this 2 will stay in a radical. So what's going on here is we've written 2 square root of 50 as 10 square root of 2. And we've written 12 square root of 8 as 24 square root of 2. Because that creates like radical terms. So 10 plus 24 is 34 square root of 2. Question E, rationalize the denominator. The verb rationalize means change to a rational number. Square root of 10 is called an irrational number. We want to make that be a rational number. So the way this is done is to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 10. You know about fractions that if you multiply numerator and denominator by the same thing, that doesn't change the overall value of the fraction. So in the top we have 5 square root of 10, and in the bottom the square root of 10 times the square root of 10 makes 10. And the reason is that the square root of 10 times the square root of 10 is the square root of 100, but the square root of 100 is just 10. Finally, this is a reducible fraction because 5 on top, 10 on the bottom reduces. So this is the square root of 10 all over 2.